had a lot of different ideas that were brought up. And so I personally think that these candidates, working with them just from that short time, are great for the board. But yeah, I think that these candidates are great and deserve to be on the board.
Thank you, Senator Dinson. Senator Thompson.
I think these candidates did a great job and we asked a lot of questions, and I moved the previous question.
Okay, there's been a motion to previous questions. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
All right, I'll do this by placard just because it's easier. All those in favor of ending the period of discussion and debate?
Nothing on Zoom.
So there. All right, go ahead and put them down. All those opposed? Abstentions? All right. With a vote of 41 to 0 to 0, this motion passes. Senator Hill.
I have a motion, Mr. Speaker, a motion to pass these candidates unanimously.
Okay. Is there any dissent to that motion to approve these candidates with unanimous consent? Seeing none, these candidates are all approved and will now be VSOP members. If I could ask. Yeah, thank you, Vaishnavi. The Deputy Chief Justice will administer the oath of office. Oh yeah, everyone's a VSOP member. Congrats.
Please repeat after me. I state your name. Do solemnly swear to defend and uphold the rules and regulations set forth by the Constitution of the Associated Students of Colorado State University, and will rightfully perform the duties of my office to the best of my ability. Congratulations.
Point of information, was there a candidate on Zoom?
There was. Diego, can you hear us? Was Diego even put in a breakout room? Oops. All right, so Diego, can you hear us? Did he leave?
Yes.
Wow. Well,
He was not there for the debate and discussion as well.
oh, okay. Well, that's good. So whenever he comes back, I guess we'll get it done. So moving on, we'll go to SFRB.
I didn't even have to ask. I love it. Come on down.
Point of information, Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
Yes, Senator Hill.
Is there any candidates on Zoom for SFRB?
There is not.
Thank you, I yield.
Deputy Chief Justice Duncan.
I motion to have all these candidates on a slate.
Okay.
Your mic's still on.
I'll entertain that motion after we hear from the Deputy Chief Justice.
Wait of clarification, I believe that Diego is back on the Zoom call.
Okay, Diego, can you hear us?
Yep, I can hear you. Thank you.
So I guess we'll swear you in right now, so
Yep.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm going to administer your oath of office, so please just repeat after me. Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
I state your name,
Diego Gutierrez.
solemnly swear to defend and uphold
Solely swear to defend and uphold
rules and regulations set forth
all the regulations set forth
by the Constitution of the Associated Students of Colorado State University.
the associated students of the Colorado State University
Will rightfully perform the duties of my office
and will rightfully perform the duties of my office
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
Congratulations, Diego.
Thank you.
Diego, it's up to you if you want to leave the meeting for the rest of the night or not. But you won't be needed any further. So thank you for coming.
Thank you.
All right,
Sounds good.
Senator Correa, I believe you had a motion. Would you mind repeating that?
A motion to put all these candidates on a slate.
All right, there's been a motion to put the candidates on the slate. Is there a second?
I second that.
All right, we'll do this by placard vote. All those in favor of putting these candidates on the slate? Okay, all those opposed?
Do you want Zoom for the affirmative?
Yeah.
Okay. Could you keep it up? I didn't see it. Was it just you, Senator Hill?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
and then abstentions. All right, with a vote of 41 to 1 to 5, this motion passes. These candidates will be put on a slate. You could go ahead and introduce them, Vice President Sandoval.
Cool. So if I say your name, just go ahead, step forward, wave so people know who you are. Jessica Laffy is majoring in economics, is a second year. She is the VP of the Economic Student Leadership Council and the Senator for the College of Liberal Arts, and she is also a returning SFRB member. Sammy Trout. He is studying criminal justice and political science. He is a fourth year. Sammy is not only heavily involved in the CSU community, but he has also advocated for student workers on the state level and hopes to continue that throughout the year. Dane Rossler is a neuroscience major with a concentration in behavioral and cognitive neuroscience and minoring in biomedical sciences. Well, that's a lot of science. He is a fourth year. He has participated in the body project training that was put on last year and is now a peer mentor. He helps participants improve their body image while spreading positivity to those around them by confronting unrealistic appearance ideals. He is also a returning SFRB member. Alexander. Samir, Alexander Samir. He is a political science major with a minor in legal studies. He is a third year. During his second year at CSU, he was able to study abroad in Europe and has come back to hold a forum for people in the community, advertising the importance of studying abroad, specifically for African-American students who have never thought or participated in a study abroad program. This has allowed him to introduce the topic to his peers and those in the forum, and that has never heard of study abroad experiences and hopes to expand the opportunity to them. Jacques Anderson. He is an economics major, fourth year. He is a transfer student to CSU. He has had limited time to engage in the community as much as he would have liked to. At his previous university, he served on the sustainability and innovation, or as a sustainability and innovation, and wow, I can talk. Ambassador in his dorm, and since transferring to CSU, he's regularly attended the CSU Car Club meetings and helped with the entrepreneurship ambassadors through the Entrepreneurship Institute. Audrey Laffy. Audrey is a business major with a communication and organization and innovation management. She is a second year, and she enjoys DJing music with KCSU. Justin? Justin is a third year in fish, wildlife, and conservation biology with a minor in water shield science and interdisciplinary leadership. He has co-founded and is currently serving as the president for CSU's newest sport, the Nordic ski team. They travel around the state and the country competing against other institutions in cross-country skiing. And he is proud to be the student coordinator for campus visits and tours in the Office of Administration, meaning that he helps the admissions. I can read. Admissions, and helps run the admissions ambassador teams, which are the student-led tours. Stephen Laffy? Yeah. Stephen is a second year and he is an economics major with a double minor in business administration and statistics. Stephen has helped write a Lex in the space to further refine the Constitution that has streamlined the election process for Senate. And he is also a returning SFRB member. Ariadne is a fourth year studying political science with a concentration in US government law and policy with a minor in legal studies. In her time at CSU, she has worked to become a fierce, bold, underlined, and capitalized advocate for the disabled community, both on and off campus. When she graduates, she wants to go to law school to eventually work in the field of disability law. She intends to ensure that her communities are represented in all aspects of SFRB, not just these that are especially for disabled students. Adeline? Adeline is a second year transfer student like myself. She is majoring in landscape architecture. She has made the dean list in her first year of college last year here at CSU, both in the fall and spring. She is also an adult learner and is passionate about making sure the adult learner voice is heard. And last but not least, we have Benton. Benton is a first year master's student, a CSU graduate. He is studying public health. Benton has been on the dean's list every semester in his 5 years of undergrad. He has a specific passion for social justice and environmental sustainability. He has been a member of ASCSU for the last 2.5 years and has been able to support CSU students through many different ways.
Thank you, Vice President Sandoval. I'll now open a 20-minute period for Q&A, starting with the first raised placard. Senator Hill, and then Senator Associate Senator Exelon.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Hi, everyone. First, I want to say welcome and thank you for, applying to this position. This is a very important position for the student body and the school. So thank you for your commitment. I believe my first question is, this role for SFRB member requires a lot of impartiality and a lot of unbiased between any personal or economic or goals or political goals or anything. So in what ways are you gonna when you hear board speaking, which is rec center, health network, etc. How are you going to maintain that impartiality and best ability in deciding what funds to go to? I will start with, and that's the question for everybody. I yield to the first person, right?
You are not on. It is now.
It is.
Hello, can you? Just kidding. Oh, hello. Yay. So just speaking for myself, I'm someone who has heard from a lot of student complaints regarding, oh, student fees are increasing and it's really hard to catch up to why is this field increasing? Why is this one not increasing? That sort of thing. And so not only do I think this position will help me be able to explain to a lot of students, especially within my field, saying, hey, this is why this was increased or why we chose not to increase that as well. I think also for those who do not know, SFRB has liaison positions for specific fee departments. If, so let's say for me, I plan on being liaison for the off-campus life. Anything dealing with off-campus life, I have to abstain. And so I think that really allows us to, go into it with hope of success, but us not fully implementing it just because we might be the switching vote, but because we put in the work to say, this is why this office should be an increase, or this is why this office says, no, we don't need an increase this year. I hope that answered your question, at least the best of my ability.
To follow along what Sammy said about abstaining, that's really the only thing that we can do. And then when we go into our liaison offices, for example, I will be ALVS and the rec center. And one great way that I can maintain non-biases is I can be respectful, and I can also just be that person that is kind of like the rebound board. I can talk too. Rebound board. So really all the ideas will hit me first, and it's kind of my job to either say, yes, we can, or, we'll just have to figure it out, and hopefully we can move forward and get it in the future.
I'm joining SFRB to learn all about this university. I know next to nothing. I know a ton about this organization, but everywhere else I have no idea. So I'm building up my knowledge from the ground up in SFRB. Within that, I don't have any preconceptions because I don't know anything. I will obviously be abstaining on the ASCSU vote because I am a member of ASCSU. But other than that, I don't really have anything to base anything on other than the presentations that we are going to be receiving.
So in my, excuse me, so in my previous position as a sustainability innovation ambassador when I was attending the University of Portland, it was really, we had hall council meetings, probably fairly similar to this committee meeting, and it was really important that we remained impartial to that because there was a lot of, let's say, mean voting that went on. That was more of just kind of a diatribe that went that way, and I think it's important just to be aware of which way you're leaning and why, and then try to, mitigate that. And
yeah, I think exactly what Sammy had said is actually, I think that's the core of the importance of that. I mean, we are supposed to be as neutral as we possibly can be, especially as liaisons to specific areas that we know the most about or that we should know the most about. I guess just to provide a quick example of for myself, I am currently the vice chair of UFAB, and I was also on UFAB for the last 2 years, University Facility Fee Advisory Board. And I actually voted against, I was a chemistry undergrad major, and I actually voted against a chemistry proposal because I felt like there were other proposals more important to the students that would significantly impact more students in beneficial ways. So just to show I'm not partial to my college or my own identities, and I really want to recognize that we got to look at the whole community here.
I've gotten to know a very large variety of people here at CSU. Yes, I do a lot of science things, but I'm friends with people who are in liberal arts, environmental sciences, people that are theater majors. I mean, all over the board. And I also served on SFRB last year, and it was always very important to take into consideration all the colleges, what everybody needs, and what would be very beneficial for their colleges.
This is my first year here at attending SFRB, so I think it's important to make sure that as a CSU student, every department here at CSU is represented, since they benefit us in some amount. And also as a CSU student, I would like to know where our student tuition is attending and where it's being used to. So I think being impartial to where it's being spent and also getting to know where our money is being spent is also very well important. So that's why I think I'll be in here.
Thanks. So first I want to apologize for showing up a little late. I was at a fundraiser for the Colorado Children's Hospital across the way. Also, I like to say they're having way more fun over there. I was just to point that out. But so specifically, I think there are a number of procedural things that are done through SFRB to limit potential biases, especially in the financial areas. So first off, any individual who's part of or an employee of any fee area must abstain on any vote. And also, I've been working with Elijah to revise some of the bylaws. We're also adding a clause that anyone who is anticipating working for or applying for a position within that fee area must also abstain. But then personally for me, I think it also comes down to speaking with as many different students from different colleges as possible, and in doing so trying to, you just get general student opinions on the utilization of their student fees.
Yeah, so as someone who's also returning to the board, this has not been a problem in the past. Like my predecessors have all said, it is very easy to abstain. And oftentimes the organization that you're a part of, the organization that you're involved with, is the organization you end up getting to be a liaison for. So you can't vote for them anyway, and it's really a great opportunity to work with them. So I did not anticipate that being a problem. But like I said, it's very easy to abstain and to not have bias in that regard. Hey, so in matters like this, I will be abstaining, like everyone else kind of says, but I will also be bringing to the table that this isn't my money, so using it to better our college and community is more important than using anything else that I might think is important and putting other people first.
I personally will be abstaining from voting on rec center and my liaison, specifically because of my positions in both of those places. But I think at the end of the day, we have to vote. We are all students in here, myself included, and I vote from a place of empathy for other students and where their fees are going, and voting from that place of empathy and compassion is what matters at the end of the day.
Mr. Speaker, how much time do I have on my question?
2 minutes.
Okay, question. Sorry. The next question is, as you know, also a point of information, one more point of information, Mr. Speaker, are we allowed to ask questions to individual candidates, or does it have to be for everybody?
Yes.
I believe since it's on a slate, the question has to be posed on the slate. No? Okay. So yeah, you could ask individuals.
Is there any members here who have been in SFRB before? Okay. I have a questions for the three members. As members of SFRB, prior to this year, what have you learned as being members of the in the past, and how can you help new members coming in and bring them up to speed, or helping them by helping the student body? If you understand what I'm asking.
Yeah, I think I understand your question. So last year was my first year on SFRB, and I was very lucky to have a lot of people on SFRB last year that have recently graduated now, and they had been on the board for a long time. So they taught me a lot of things about like budgeting and the finances of it, and making sure that you connect with your the liaison role that you have, like connecting with them and scheduling meetings and asking the right questions. And I'm going to make sure that to be one of those role models for people who are starting SFRB this year, right, in order to help them go along this journey.
Thanks. So there are a number of things. I mean, like Dane, a lot of people were very helpful to me as I was starting out on the board. First off, the first semester I think is very helpful for new members because there's not much budgets, right? There's simple explanations. You tour facilities. I think you learn a lot about the board very easily through that way, and that's, I think that serves most people as a pretty good primer even to the budgets. I might be speaking strange in this thing. I'm sorry about the static. But aside from that, I think I'd like to help students understand, and particularly, or rather the new members understand particularly the budgets once the spring semester comes along. I mean, specifically just helping people perhaps sitting next to me. We do go through a budget primer. It's our first meetings the spring semester, but it's a little fast paced. I'd like to help those individuals, especially those that I'm sitting close to, or people who reach out asking for help. I just like to help them understand particularly the terminology and such that's used and how it is used.
So I think one of the great things about SFRB is that it doesn't have a steep learning curve. Like being a senator has a pretty steep learning curve. You got to learn all these rules and parliamentary procedure, and it's a ton of fun. But the thing about SFRB is that the whole first semester, we're just meeting with people. We're talking with people. We're engaging with people. And that's A, it's really fun, but B, it's like not a lot of work on our part. We really just get to hear from people and hear ideas. The harder part of our job is when it comes to spring semester and we have to review all these budget sheets with all these numbers and figure out what they all say and mean. So I think that the best way to help new members, and the way that I kind of learned was learning a lot during the spring semester, during the times when you're walking between places, about what's coming up, about what you can do to prepare, and then just really diving in when it comes to the budgets. I had never looked at a budget before in my life before joining SFRB, and in the spring semester, they're like, here's a budget. So we went over budgets, we talked about this stuff. And so to be a resource for all my counterparts and to be able to be knowledge if they need it, and to rely on also my peers who have also been on SFRB is going to be key to us all understanding what our jobs are going forward.
Speaker, my time.
It is expired.
Okay, I yield.
Thank you. So we have about 8 minutes left on the running clock for discussion and debate as a whole. Yeah, Senator Hill.
I'd like to make a motion to extend quick Q&A by 30 minutes.
So the motion I would entertain is to exhaust the speakers list, which means we have 2 other speakers. So who was first on that? Senator Thompson?
I believed I was on the speakers list to
Right.
make a motion to exhaust the speakers list.
Okay, you could just make that motion now if you choose to.
I move to exhaust the speakers list.
All right, is there a second for that motion?
Point of order. The initial motion I made is not been entertained.
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay. So second for the motion to exhaust the speakers list.
Second.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay.
Nay.
Abstentions? Okay, the ayes have it. The speakers list will be exhausted. Associate Senator Estlin.
Hi all. So I just have, well, not a very easy question, but one that I would like you to think about very deeply. What tangible and direct actions have you taken to address and unlearn racism? And just posed to all of you, so take it away.
If you could give me a minute to think about that for a second.
Okay, if one of you has an answer like ready to go, please feel free to answer.
One of the best things that I have found to address and unlearn racism in myself is to go about. I work as an admissions ambassador at the Department of Admissions, and we get trainings on everything galore and interact with almost all offices across campus. And within those, we have a lot of conversations in our office about identity and about ways to present different information and give tours to people who come from every single aspect of life across the entire world. And being able to have those conversations and being able to hear what some of my other peers have said has both allowed me to have some introspective thought about it, as well as osmosisize some of the information and thoughts that my peers have had over the years, which I think helps build character and has made me better in that regard.
Yeah, I would say one thing that helped me is that I went to a high school that was online. And so we had people from every country. Like I had classmates from China and Brazil and a whole bunch of other places. And my teachers were from different places. And so every class we would have a lot of different fun topics, but we'd also just get to learn and interact with different cultures. And I also did a lot of that with 4-H, and I continue to do that here on campus. And so I think just being able to interact with people in general has really helped me in this regard. So for me, that experience that you're talking about, getting to know different kinds of people, has really been SFRB. I stood up, for those of you here last year, I stood up in front of all y'all and said that this is something I wanted to do because I wanted to learn about the different student organizations. I wanted to learn about different people. I wanted to hear ideas. And I've really been able to do that through SFRB, and that has been really helpful and beneficial to me. So in answering your question, I would say that this board, I think that all of us are going to be able to grow in our understanding of not only just student organizations, but what they do, who they support, and how we can best be supportive as students of the areas that our fees go towards.
Yeah, so for me, during my time as a senator last year, and then also as during the Student Fee Review Board, I've always tried to speak with students of as many different backgrounds as possible. I think I actually need y'all can still hear me if it's farther away from my mouth? Yeah. Okay, that works much better then. Sounds good. So it's mostly been a process of speaking with the individuals of as many different backgrounds as possible. With the board, that also applies to trying to address those individuals who might not be represented currently on the board, or even in the past on the board, or in the Senate, or anywhere, but those individuals who really also pay student fees. Now, they're all students, we all have different experiences we come forward with, but we all have different ways in which we experience the campus. I think that's important to highlight the way in which we address this, I believe, as individuals without those previous experiences, is to directly and intentionally speak with individuals of diverse experiences in order to improve ourselves. And as you pointed out, I think it also builds personal character.
As an African American and a first generation student here at Colorado State, I'm able to share experiences of other people of color here on campus. So I'm able to speak their experiences as well as put that into play. So as we're going over these budgets, I'm able to put these biases aside as well as put those experiences and put resources of where more help is needed, as well as feel like through my background and studying abroad in different countries, I'm able to relate other people's experiences and share what others might feel about situations.
As I associate myself with the LGBTQIA plus community, I really understand what it's like to get my opinions kind of like pushed under the rug, like, oh, doesn't matter. Like, I also grew up in the Midwest, which is not the most accepting place right now, at least where I lived. And so I really want to make sure that nobody has those same experiences that I did.
Yeah, I'd say the core of my anti-racism work actually began when I was an RA. And we did a lot of really incredible trainings around anti-racism, liberation. And through that, I actually decided to pick up an ethnic studies minor. I was able to take a lot of really incredible classes like Black feminisms, queer creative expressions, classes that just really covered topics that don't specifically relate to me. They don't, I was lucky. I felt like it was a privilege to be one of the few men that was actually in a lot of ethnic studies classes. It would be like me and maybe 3 others, and then a bunch of women, a bunch of folks of color, which I felt like I was really lucky because I never had that experience before. And that I feel like that was really kind of the core of where I started learning anti-racism work. I was able to join the BIPOC Alliance for the first ever Juneteenth in Fort Collins. That was before the city picked it up. But we actually did one that was not supported by the city originally back in 2020. And it was really, really amazing. And it's just given me a lot of opportunities to reflect on myself, lead with humility, and really think about the privilege and the power that I hold and how I can harness that as a tool to uplift folks.
So for me, it's more so I come from a background that isn't very diverse, and I think the first step to that is definitely going to be cognizance. So to be cognizant of the fact that like I don't have a lot of experience in this, and it's still a process that I'm going through. I think especially in finance, diversity of thought and culture are very important things, and having different perspectives is really important. So for example, like one of the cool things that I've learned recently, that was one of the kind of my steps towards taking towards this, was like the anti-usury laws within, that is interest rates for the layman, within the Islamic community, which I thought was really, really cool to learn about. And I'd be really interested to be hearing kind of from some other, or say marginalized groups within the CSU community and what their thoughts are on fees and finances in general.
I spend a lot of time on TikTok, which is probably not a thing I should have been in this room, but I do, and it's way too much time. But my TikTok is not filled with pranks and games and all those things. It is social justice TikTok, and I try very hard to sit and listen through every single one so that I'm hearing the experiences of everyone who's not my experience, because I'm a white woman, and that is a really problematic space that I grew up in, and I'm trying really hard to get on more than that. But I really recognize that my work is never done. Nobody's work is never done in the areas of work. We're always constantly trying to work on it.
I do not watch a lot of TikTok, but I also really, I have the privilege of being a white woman, and I feel like it is my personal duty to help others and to reach out and to really just be that person for support, be that person that you can rely on. I come from a very diverse family. My half siblings are African American and Japanese, so I have never really learned racism. I have a lot of love and support for people that are different than me. I am personally very accepting. So I think that I've never really learned racism. I don't appreciate it. I don't respect it. I want to stomp it into the floor. I want to be that person that just like is there for social justice, that is there for personal justice, that's there for identity justice. I think that that is extremely important, and being able to see my privilege, but also use it for the better, use it for best, to use it for the greater good, whatever you want to say. I think that that is an extremely powerful position to hold.
One of the greatest joys to me, and especially over the last couple of years, especially with being in this space, is hearing the stories from a lot of students. And really not only like knowing how to truly be able to be empathetic, besides just saying there and go, yeah, I'm hearing what you're saying, but I'm not going to do anything about it, but actually taking what they say and put that into advocacy. That's why me and Sherry, one of the first pieces of legislation we wrote this year was the diversity, equity, and inclusion resolution that passed almost unanimously within this space, which I think is a great first step, but I think it's also a first step among a million other steps. I'm someone who wants to listen and to be able to go, hey, how can I help you with the privilege that I have? And that's something that I have recognized more and more as I've grown more passionate within advocacy work.
Thank you. I yield my time.
Thank you. And with that, that's the Q&A period. I'll ask the candidates to please leave, and we'll enter a 20-minute discussion debate period. Shout out to Officer Bukhari. He gave me these. Lesson. Recommend.
Point of clarification, Mr. Speaker, do I need to leave the room as well?
No, you could stay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
Point of information.
Yeah.
How many of these candidates can we elect for this position? Is there like a limit? Or like, are all these candidates able to be elected?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. All of them who are up here now, that would be the board. Yep. All right. So I'll start discussion and debate, starting with the first raised placard. All right, Senator Taylor.
I feel like the Q&A was adequate, and I feel like we should motion to approve this question.
All right, do you want to make that motion, Senator Taylor? Okay, there's been a motion to previous question. There's been a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. And then abstentions. So the ayes have it. We'll now enter a voting period. I would entertain a motion to approve these candidates with unanimous consent.
I make a motion to approve these candidates with unanimous consent.
All right.
I second that.
Well, is there any dissent to that motion to approve these candidates by unanimous consent? Okay, so there is dissent. So we'll do this by placard vote. Actually, no, we'll have to do this by secret ballot if we can't do unanimous consent. So we'll send out ballots to senators, and if you're an associate senator voting in place of a senator, you can vote for this as well.
I have a point of information. I've been in the circumstance where we have put on the slate a couple times. Are we allowed to take certain members out of the slate?
If
and vote them on them individually, if that's possible? I think I remember that happening a couple times in the past. Could be wrong.
So if you choose to, you can make that motion to remove any candidate from a slate.
No, it's just a point of clarification.
Okay, yeah. All right.
Point of
So
information. So the College of Liberal Arts has one senator that's out there. What do we do about that?
We have an associate. Are they about to vote in place of the senator currently being ratified?
I believe so, since they're not here. Yeah, I would allow that.
Point of clarification, Mr. Speaker, but since all of these candidates are on a slate, I believe we have to vote on them all together at once and not individually until and unless motion otherwise.
Yeah.
So instead of having a secret ballot, it would make sense for us to just vote on it with the placard vote, since you're voting on all of them together and not individually.
From my understanding, if it's not unanimous consent, if it's something like this, it has to be voted on through secret ballot. That was my understanding of it.
Am I able to make a motion to do this vote via placard?
Point of order, no.
Okay, cool. I wanted to see if that was an option.
Point of information, how will people on Zoom give their ballots?
So in the messages, I believe you could message the host privately.
Do you want to just message you on Slack?
Yeah, or you could do Slack if you're on the Slack. Is everyone on the Slack on Zoom? If not, what we'll do is we'll just have Vaishnavi stop sharing the screen on the TV and then just message the host of the meeting what your vote is.
So point of clarification, for Rule 3 in the voting of the bylaws, it states that secret ballot is not necessary when it is the approval of a slate.
And in Rule 3 of the Senate bylaws?
Yes.
Okay.
Specifically section or subsection F.
Okay, so with that being said, we'll just do this by placard vote.
Board with promotion.
What's the motion?
To remove Stephen Laffy and Adeline off of the slate.
Before I entertain that motion, I would first of all ask for justification and then entertain discussion and debate on that motion.
Just history of whenever they spoke about their women's caucus and history from last year.
Okay.
And their answer to the last question.
Okay, I'll open up a, say, 10-minute period of discussion debate. Senator Correa, I believe you're first.
I believe candidate Laffy is a phenomenal candidate. He's also been on SFRB last year, has done phenomenal work at ASCSU and CSU in general, and he should definitely be on SFRB. Thank you, I yield.
Senator Kilburn.
Yeah, I just wanted to know a more specific example of what you were referring to. I'm absolutely open to it. I just want to hear what you had to kind of say in more detail.
We just have some concerns in terms of this board, having how much power of like student fees and everything, and having them being representatives of all the students. And then just the answer to the last question in terms of things I've done for racism to overcome it. I know with Stephen Laffy, last year there was some tension with the NAC senators and APAC senators last year, and we felt like he was trying to silence us and pretty much ignore our voices, and we constantly had to keep talking with him, and he still wanted his own agenda constantly. So we thought that we would like to avoid that conflict this year. And in terms of Adeline, we think that she has more time to grow, and we think that maybe she should have some more education about racism and DEI efforts. For example, her answer for the Women's Caucus chair was a little controversial, and it was kind of the sense of, oh, I can't be racist because I have a Black friend in that sense, but I think she said her roommate was non-binary, so that was problematic. So I just don't have any confidence in both of these candidates. And Senator Ritter can elaborate too.
Yeah, I just wanted to reiterate last year whenever Stephen Laffy was bringing in a lot of hostile, energy into a lot of our space in the SDPS offices, at least whenever I heard from the NAC Center and APAC Center senators from last year as well. And it was very hostile, and in terms of something that he was also trying to pass was removing rights of SDPS senators as well, because of the way voting works with SDPS directors and versus college ratifications. And so, trying to take away those rights last year, and, whenever he failed to do that, it kind of influenced a lot of the SDPS senators and how they felt about, his efforts. And so I don't really have a lot of confidence in a lot of work that he might try to do this year. As well as, reiterating about Adeline and her efforts as well. I think that there's room to grow. And I think with the Women's Caucus Chair could help with that as well. And so maybe getting time with doing that, maybe in the future, if Adeline chooses to run again for SFRP, we can see how this year kind of goes, and then kind of come back to this next year. And yeah, that's it. But are you?
Okay, before we continue, here's the main issue I take with this space. Okay, those were some very serious allegations that we heard, and they were not brought up in Q&A. If you have the gall to do it during the discussion debate when they're out of the room, you should have the gall to ask them the question in this room. Additionally, all of these candidates have been vetted by the vice president. This should be more of a procedural thing that is symbolic, yet we have turned it into such a political disaster that it makes people feel that they don't want to be in ASCSU.
Point of clarification, I did want to name a speaker list, but many people wanted to exhaust the speaker list, so.
Well, you could have always raised your placard. You have a senator and you have that availability. Vice President Sandoval, you had something.
I understand where you all are coming from, because I was here last year. I felt very uncomfortable with Stephen. However, people grow, people change. We cannot be continuing to compare last year to this year. There is so many new faces in this space, so many new voices, so many new thoughts, ideas, you name it. We cannot continue to judge someone by their past mistakes. I learned that. I learned that earlier in the spring semester with one of our choices for directors. I made that mistake. I have full confidence in Stephen Laffy and his ability to do this job. That's why I asked him if he wanted to return, because I was on the board with him last year and I saw his work ethic. I saw how thorough he was, how he talked to his liaison directors, how he asked the questions that we didn't even think about asking. I saw that, and I have full support in Stephen. He approached me and asked me if he could help me with the bylaws because he knew that I was struggling with them. Most of the bylaws, many of the bylaw rewrites is because of him, and I read through them, and it's not coming from a place of selfishness or a place of privilege. It's coming from a place of how can we make this better? How can we make this more understandable? As for Addie, full disclosure, she is one of my best friends. Her and I have been friends for 2 years. We went to the same school, the same community college. We graduated at the same time. I understand with Addie and her answer from last week or 2 weeks ago about the Women Caucus Chair. I understand that, but she is learning. And how can you expect somebody to learn if they're wanting to be in a place where they can learn, and then you just take it away saying, no, you need to learn more. She is trying to learn. She was talked to last week or a couple weeks ago, whenever that happened, about her mistake. She understands that. She is learning. All of these people are learning. I'm learning. You can't expect, like Speaker DeSalvo said, you can't expect people to want to be in this space and want to learn, want to change, want to do good, if we're going to keep bringing up past mistakes and if we're going to not give them a chance to change. Thank you. I yield.
Thank you. Next on the speakers list is Senator Kilburn.
I already spoke.
Okay.
I yield myself.
Okay, Senator Gabriel.
Hi, everybody. I'm kind of tense from what's being said right now. I'm sure we all are. And I do agree with all of the points that everyone who has spoken already has said. I do want to reiterate what Senator Ritter was saying about concerns with the first candidate. Could you remind me his name? Stephen
Laffy.
Concerns with Stephen Laffy, I personally have no prior knowledge of any conflict that took place, but I do have high involvement in the SDPS offices, and it has become a concern that ASCSU's involvement in the SDPS offices has not always been seen as positive. And I think what Senator Ritter's intent with addressing that problem was to address the concern for feeling like ASCSU might erase the SDPS presence in ASCSU. So of course, you're right, people do grow and change, but I think the reason for speaking on that was kind of call into attention that this might become a problem again. And Vice President Sandoval, I appreciate your explanation on Stephen's growth and his work ethic, but I also do feel that work ethic does not equate to sensitivity. Someone can be very hardworking and have great work ethic, but they might not have the context, cultural context in other places. From what I heard from Senator Ritter, it is concerning that Stevens, what he wanted to do was erase the SDPS senators rather than change what that looks like, rather than change the systems, he wanted to erase them. And that is kind of concerning. It does sound kind of targeted. So that is a point of concern for me as well. But as you did say, people can change. And I do think that it is a good idea to remove them off of the slate and bring them back in for questioning, like you said, Nick, that we should be able to say these things to their face. We should bring them back in and raise these concerns, and then also hear how they've grown and then what they'll do different. I yield.
Thank you, Senator Gabru. Senator Morgan, you raised your placard earlier.
That's for the point of clarification.
Thank you. Senator Doyle.
I yield to redundancy.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Reese.
I would simply like to echo what Vice President Sandoval said about giving people room to grow and being able to show that they have changed. I would say that for both candidates that are in contention right now, and I also agree with Senator Gabru that I would entertain a motion to vote on the 8, I believe, who are not in contention, and then bring the other 2 back in so we can discuss and let them defend themselves, because this is an accusation. This is I do not want to some very serious actions, and so I'd like to bring the 2 in first. I yield.
Mr. Speaker, I have a point over the motion to put them on the slate is to do exactly that. Am I correct?
Would you mind further explaining what you mean by that?
I was asking, this is sorry, a point of clarification. When we put them on a slate, are we already going to be pulling them and asking them individually, questioning them?
No, if we were to pull them from the slate, we have 2 options. We could either bring them back in for questioning, or we could vote on the other candidates, hold off on those other 2 candidates, then bring them back in for Q&A and vote separately. Does that answer your question?
Thank you. That answers I yield.
Okay, and I believe Senator Reese, did you want to make the motion to bring those 2 candidates back in for questioning, therefore, I guess, removing them from the slate?
Yes, I'd like to make the motion.
Okay, is there a second for that?
Second. Accepted this friendly amendment of bringing them back for questioning without removing them from the slate, because we in a slate you can ask candidates individual questions. So would you mind doing that instead of taking them off the slate?
Yes, I would be amenable to that. I would like to amend my motion to what Senator Correa said.
Okay, is there a second for that motion? All right, all those in favor of bringing these other 2 candidates back in for questioning, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Abstentions? This passes unanimously.
Just
Um,
adding, right?
All right, we'll open up a 20-minute period of Q&A for these candidates, starting with the first raised placard. Senator Gibber.
Hello, hi. Could you each say your names?
Stephen Laffy.
Adeline Schumer.
Stephen and Adeline. We had some questions for you. Some concerns came up during our our discussion period.
Sure, go ahead.
So some of the concerns that had came up were some performance issues from previous year with you, Stephen, and then Addie. There is some concern about the responses given at your questioning during the Women's Caucus a couple weeks ago. I'm not aware of either of those. I'm just stating what I heard. But some of the questions that we had were in terms of representation for students who don't look like you or don't identify the way that you identify. So there's just some clarifying questions. We wanted to know how you both feel that you've grown and changed, how you plan to grow and change, and how you plan to learn more about diversity, equity, inclusion, and social justice on campus.
Go ahead. Ask us your questions, please.
For sure. So, Stephen, what we heard about you was that last year there was some contention between you and the NAC office as well as the APAC office, and that there had been some motion from your end to remove senators from SDPS offices. Could you clarify what had happened?
I'm not sure what you're referring to. I never made a motion to remove any senator from an SDPS office.
I might be using the wrong vocabulary.
Of course. So I was speaking about this time last year as a totally new senator. I was trying to figure out some things for me to do. I was speaking with a couple of senators. I believe one was a former senator to APAC. Let's see. There were two ALVS senators that are interested in this. Individuals that had senator positions which were added under the diversity amendment, which was passed several years ago. And we were never trying to take away positions. In fact, we were considering the best ways to change the ways in which senators were added through those positions. In the end, there was about a month. It went on for, no one ever really focused on it. It went on for, I believe, maybe 2 or 3 weeks, just speaking with some people about it. Never actually saying anything along the lines of removing senator seats. I definitely do not want to remove senator seats. I believe the indecision was that there was not a better way to structure the system that was in place. I mean, I'm actually in favor, and I've spoken about this before. It's something I'd like to do. I believe we should add 2 senator seats for our athletics individuals. I know our athletics community is one that's very underrepresented throughout all of ASCSU. I'd like to add their voice here, but there's no reason that.
Can I interrupt you, please?
Of course.
I want to make sure we're staying on task since we have such a short period of time. What was the problem that you saw in the SDPS offices that you were trying to amend?
Well, specifically, it was just that all individuals were appointed via what we saw as the administration. What I saw, I was actually fairly uninformed about the precise way in which it was done. And you know, I do regret even pursuing it. It wasn't something that should be changed. I just didn't know enough to understand that, and I was a little bit uninformed about the process by which senators were appointed through the SDPS offices, and actually a lot of it was just asking questions. I asked questions of various individuals. With initially the goal of finding out what it was, and maybe if there was a better system. Again, the indecision was that there was in fact not a better system.
What was your reasoning for wanting to change the procedures that take place in the SDPS offices?
Yeah, I think it was, again, this was about a year ago, and no one actually spent much time really looking into this. It was something that we decided pretty early on to not even pursue, but as I recall, was something along the lines of streamlining, or perhaps, I think it was a combination, perhaps streamlining and also ensuring that there was student voice behind, that in the appointment of the senators to SCPS offices, there was in fact student voice behind that, and it was not just individuals appointed by the administration, the directors of the SCPS, ALBS offices, et cetera, making those decisions. I think that was the primary concern, that there might not have been enough student input.
And since then, have you learned why it was important that the administration of SPPS offices appoint the senators?
Yes, I believe it's the best system we have to ensure that all voices in the space are represented. I was unaware that it was the best system at the time. I regret pursuing it. It was more or less a waste of time. Again, I was pursuing it alongside two present senators that were part of the process. Thought it was way too quick, and then also a former senator who again, I believe it was APAC. I don't recall precisely. Who he simply didn't believe that there was enough student voice in the process to appoint senators to the SCPS offices.
All right, thank you for your responses. And then Addie, questions for you. We heard that there was some room for growth for you in terms of learning about racism, especially in concerns to the last question that was asked during the Slate questions. And it was said that there might be room for you to grow. How do you feel that? How do you feel about your education right now in diversity, equity, inclusion, social justice?
Thank you for asking that. I believe that attending Colorado State University is a great step for me to learn DEI and what it means to be in this space. I really want to emphasize that I want to emphasize that I am learning, but I also believe that racism is not the course of action, especially in our state today and in our country. I believe that constantly learning and unlearning racism is very important in figuring out ways that we can better include peoples of different colors, peoples of different backgrounds and religions. I am constantly learning about how to be respectful and how to appropriately respect people's identities. I think being here at CSU is, again, a great opportunity for me to better myself, to better my personal ability to speak about these issues. I have never been questioned about these types of things, so forgive me for my pauses. I just have to think about my answers, but I
appreciate your answer. I do want to interrupt. I have one more question for you.
Okay.
I understand being at CSU might be helpful for your growth, but I do want to point out CSU is a primarily white institution and contains a lot of privilege on campus. So as a person who identifies with many minoritized and underprivileged identities, I wouldn't say that this is the best place to learn about racism. So my question is, I know you did mention that you haven't been asked these questions many times before, and that's okay because learning about social justice is hard for everyone, whether you're privileged or not privileged. But what efforts are you taking from your positions of privilege to learn about the people on campus who don't have privilege?
I really try to be a good listener. I really try to hear what people are telling me and then act on things that I can do and then provide resources to the things that I cannot do. I really think that, again, being respectful and just trying to reach out and listen and be within the community, be on campus, go to the different offices, and just try to put faces to names, try to really listen and help, whether that is giving resources, whether that's being a good listener, whether that's help finding resources. I could also attend classes if you all feel that I need to learn in further depth about this kind of stuff so I can be a better speaker, so I cannot insult peoples that I have.
I yield my time. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. House Supercar, you're next.
Howdy, y'all. Thanks for coming in and being vulnerable with this body. Like, I know it takes a lot of effort to stand in front of like a group of 40 senators from different colleges. So like, thank you for that. And I'd also like to request like the folks that did discuss their wrongdoings or other perceived accusations to also speak up on this issue, because I do appreciate Senator Gebru's input on this, but her and I and many of the senators in this space are unaware of what happened last year. We have no background or basis, or I mean, quite frankly, like right to speak on them. Like, no offense, Senator Gebru. But if you could also be brave and also talk about your experiences as well and inform the body about what's happening, because I'm at a disconnect of like what their actions are, what happened, and understanding the full story, right? So like if we can have your input as well to like inform this space, be more acquainted with their actions and how they can improve on them. Because we can provide all the resources or like advice that we can, but if impacted parties do not speak up on this, how are we supposed to better serve them and meet their needs, right? I understand confrontation is different for everyone. You can do this privately as well. But I also ask, like in this space, if you do have things to say, please bring it up because it benefits the entire public. I yield my time.
Would you like to rather yield to one of those senators to further explain? That is possible.
If permissible, could one of the NAC senators who did speak during the discussion, would that be okay? Okay, I yield my time.
Yeah, Stephen, so we were just kind of discussing some things from last year. You know, you had come into the NAC last year into the space, and the impact that you had made on our students, what you had made with questioning had made our students in the NAC very uncomfortable and very uneasy, especially about the space that you brought from ASCSU. Another senator my friend from APAC had reported the same information to me, and you know, we were discussing these things. And whenever NAC and APAC senators tried discussing the reasons why the procedure is the way it was, you didn't acknowledge their perspective and the voice of NAC and APAC and what we had to say from last year, or should I say spring semester, before the summer. They, you know, we tried to explain the white supremacy and why SDPS senators are appointed the way they are to gain diversity in the ASCSU space. And, you know, the fear with that, with no growth and understanding, you know, these complex. So those are the kind of like concerns that, you know, we had from last year, and that we had discussed a little bit. I don't know if there's something else that I had missed besides that, but.
And essentially, you know, this is not attacking you personally, it's just my concerns, because I was one of the people that you had a direct conversation with, and like we went back and forth, and me and one of the other APAC senators, we tried to explain white supremacy and the lack of diversity in ASCSU and how that's impacting the CPS senators and why the appointment is the way it is. And I remember like it just kind of went over your head and you still didn't get it. And I know this was a constant issue for a couple of weeks, like you said, like you were talking to different people. And again, the fact that it concerns us is because you went to different SCPS offices asking questions, which may seem harmless. However, the impact on the actual students who go to this office to feel safe, to find a comfort area, that had a negative impact on students. So our concern is how have you grown since that experience, and what are the things that you're actively doing right now based on that?
Point of information, real quick. You are saying that this happened last year in the spring semester, correct?
Yes. This last semester.
So in this past spring semester, correct? When did this happen? When was?
Stephen Laffy, do you remember when this happened?
I don't recall. I actually don't recall the conversation you're referring to, Senator Morgan. Specifically with you, I may have had this, and it may be skipping my memory again. It's like 8:30. I know I was talking about this. Right? I believe it was a period of about 2.5 weeks. It would have been in the fall semester, about a year from now.
Yeah,
Oh,
again,
you-
sorry, it was a traumatic experience for me, so I blocked it out, so.
So point of clarification, it was the spring of this very last semester, I remember, because I was also one of the senators spoken to. Just for information.
So it happened the spring of last semester, so the 51st Senate. Point of clarification, why didn't y'all talk about it then? Why are we talking about it now?
Point of clarification, I think we did discuss about it. I know we brought the concerns up with the advisors. But yeah, we definitely made our concerns aware.
Was President Long, can you grab thank you.
You know, before we continue any further with this, I'd like us all to think for a second, if you're just a random student, not an ASCSU, thinking about the student government and wondering what we actually do, and we showed them an example of this. Do you think that would really be a good use of our time, or a good use of the student fee dollars that we're so blessed with in order to make real change on campus? Before we proceed any further with this, I'd like you all to think about that, because it's getting late into the night. We still have more on the docket, and we're kind of going in circles. So
Again, my question was just how you were able to grow. We can go into specifics after, but if you wanted to answer how you're able to grow from that experience.
First off, I think the specifics are important, okay? I think if I'm being accused of something here, I should bloody well know, excuse my language, I should bloody well know what I'm being accused of before this happens, okay? But additionally, I mean no disrespect to anyone. I am deeply sorry if I have offended any of y'all present. It's never been my intention to offend anyone. I think those individuals of y'all who know me know that it's been my aspiration to be a gentleman, to be kind, respectful to all those individuals, which I can be kind and respectful to. Again, I'm very sorry if I offended anyone, and I believe that it might have been helpful, or I'm really not sure what to say here. Could you repeat precisely what you're asking me to say?
Well, apparently now you know how it made other students feel. How do you plan to grow on your knowledge of white supremacy and DEI in general?
As I said, I intend to speak with as many people as possible of diverse backgrounds. It's been my policy in the past. And I've taken our DEI module. I've been, again, I think I already expressed how I hope to always be conscious of those individuals whose backgrounds are very different than mine. If you intend, will you give me the courtesy of listening to what I have to say?
Mr. Speaker, I would like to motion.
May I ask the point of this discussion?
Mr. Speaker,
yeah, Senator Hill.
I'd actually like to make a motion to move to previous question.
Okay, so all those in favor of moving to previous questions, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. Abstentions? Okay, this motion passes. Senator Taylor, did you have something?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. So we're now outside of our Q&A period, and now we'll move into a vote on these candidates as a slate. Okay. Yep, Senator Gresham.
I would like to make a motion for unanimous consent.
All right, is there any dissent to that motion?
Dissent.
Okay, so we could do this by placard vote. Yeah. So all those in favor, President Long.
Hello, y'all. I know this is your space, but due to the confidentiality of this, I feel that the student body should, this should be kept as a secret ballot. I feel that the knowledge of this needs to be kept secret to protect the integrity of these individuals to the student body. But this is your space. I would highly advise against a placard vote for this. I yield.
Also, a point of information, when approving candidates, we're supposed to do a secret ballot vote.
No, in the bylaws, it could be by placard
Just point
when
of,
they're on a slate.
point of information. What exactly are we voting for as of right now? Are we voting to keep them on the slate and thus approve them, or are we voting to remove them from the slate and vote on them separately?
So the motion that was made originally by Senator, I think it was Senator Reese, and it was amended by Senator Correa, was to just take them out of the room and into the room to question them further, but they are still on the slate. And so the vote that we are in right now is to approve these candidates as a slate because they were never taken off the slate.
Okay,
Okay, so we'll do this by a placard vote because they're on a slate. So all those in favor of approving these candidates, raise your placard. I literally just saw 18. Okay. All those opposed? Abstentions?
On Zoom.
2 abstentions on Zoom or 2 no's?
Opposed, no.
Okay.
One more no on Zoom.
18 to 4. And then 15. Okay, so in these vote, abstentions do not count towards the total number. So with a vote of 18 to 4 to 15, these candidates are all approved as SFRB members.
Motion for a 5-minute recess.
Is,
Sorry, I meant that motion. I'll wait for that motion.
okay, with the parliamentarian, please bring these individuals up.
Yes.
Congratulations, everyone. You're now all on SFRB. The Deputy Chief Justice will administer the oath of office.
Welcome back, everybody.
Mike, is it?
Okay, there we go. It just lagged a little bit. Okay. Are you all ready? All right. I state your name.
I, Stephen Laffy,
Do solemnly swear to defend and uphold
do solemnly swear to defend and uphold
the rules and regulations set forth
the rules and regulations set forth
by the Constitution of the Associated Students of Colorado State University
by the Associated Students of Colorado State University
and will rightfully perform the duties of my office
and will rightfully perform the duties of my office
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
Senator Hill,
I motion for a 10-minute recess.
is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor of 10-minute recess, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
I know, that's what I said, nobody cares.
Well, what are we doing with our time? We're going in
We're
circles
fucking around with internal. That's
for
what we're
hours.
doing. We're wasting time with internal.
And
We're
it's the
wasting
wrong
time.
move. It's the wrong move.
So we gotta put some real bills forward. We can't be debating this shit because the collegian just thinks that we're debating internal right now. Internal bullshit. That same thing that's been going on for the entire year last year. People of color and companies spoke about how they know something and double hear from you during that speech as they can talk about the space and technology. You can only look at
Yeah, that's what that's what What's your name? Yeah, I'm Braxton. Nice to meet you. Yeah. I think I'm. Yeah.
Please unmute.
Okay, so for those of you on Zoom, there's a motion on the table to adjourn. If you're in favor of adjourning, say aye. And could you please raise your placards as well if you're in favor of adjourning?
One on Zoom. Two on Zoom.
Two on Zoom. All right, all those in favor of not adjourning?
Three on Zoom. Aye.
You don't get to vote, my sorry. All right, and then abstentions. All right, with a vote of 22 to 16 to 2, this motion to adjourn fails. Now,
I'm leaving then because that was bullshit.
all right.
I'm also leaving too because the fact that you think not addressing oppression in this space is unimportant speaks highly of your privileges, and I'm done. I agree. That was absolute bullshit.
All right, so the next item on the agenda are the judicial job descriptions. And fortunately, the author of that bill is not here, which would be Marcus. Thank you, Benton. All right, we're going over the judicial job descriptions.
I am here. So basically, these are judicial job descriptions. All that really happened was updating the position's pay and their office hours to represent the numbers within the budget. Beyond that, all the other changes that were made between internal and budgetary, I accept. And with that, I yield to any questions you guys have for me.
All right, are there any questions for the Chief Justice? All right, and I do believe the conference committee chair, which is.
Well, Ariadne and I went over these in conference committee to combine the edits, and if I can comment on the budgetary side what the edits were, if that would be helpful for you all.
Yep.
Okay, similar with the other job descriptions, budgetary adjusted the pay, so that would reflect what the people were actually receiving for their own paycheck. There's a certain amount that the university takes out to cover like health and additional like benefits. And so that is why you'll see some adjustments there, just because in the main budget, say $2,000 is allocated to a position. On the job description, maybe it'll say like 1,900, just to give numbers as like reference to reflect that some is taken out for benefits, and that was it.
Cool. So if we'll just scroll through the edits. Are there any questions for either Committee Chair Renscher or the Chief Justice at this time? Okay. And then I guess we'll move into a discussion and debate period. on this piece of legislation unless someone wants to make a motion to
I
approve it.
motion to previous question.
All right, so there's been a motion to previous questions. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. All right, this motion passes.
I motion for unanimous consent.
All right, there's been a motion for unanimous consent. Is there any dissent in passing this? Seeing none, this legislation passes.
Thank all of you.
The clerk will call ending roll call.
Speaker pro tempore. There it is. She's not here. Officer Bukhari. Senator Aludani.
She's not here.
Senator Aslan. Associate Senator Aslan. Here. Chair Fay.
She's not here.
Associate Senator Barron.
Not here.
Associate Senator Barton.
Present.
Senator Bilodeau.
Not here.
Senator Bouchard.
Not here.
Senator Cordero.
Present.
Senator Correa.
Present.
Senator Denson.
Present.
Senator Doyle.
Present.
Senator Epperson.
Here.
Senator Gazer. Senator Gebru. Senator Godshaw.
Here.
Senator Johnson. Here. Senator Juarez. Senator Kilburn.
Here.
Senator Kramer. Senator Laffy.
Here.
Senator Lowe. Senator McCall. Senator Melka.
Here.
Senator Nguyen.
Here.
Senator Oker.
Not here.
Senator Pareso. Senator Pereira. Senator Reese.
Here.
Chair Rencher. Here. Senator Salazar. Senator Sanchez. Associate Senator Schumer. Senator Shetty.
Here.
Senator Sonarikar. Here. Senator Taylor.
Here.
Senator Thompson.
Here.
Chair Trout.
Present.
Senator Vega.
Here.
Senator Parker.
Here.
Associate Senator Deeks.
Here.
Senator Hill.
Here.
Senator Ritter.
Not here.
Senator Schmidt.
Here.
Senator Michael. Senator Morgan. Senator Jacobs.
Here. And then the speakers here. Is there anyone else who was not called? Senator Weaver and
Associate Senator
Associate Senator
Melchior.
Melchior, and then Associate Senator Hubley. All right. Give everyone here the option. Do we want to do caucus reports, committee reports, and legislative officer along with senator reports, or do we just want to adjourn now? Chair and Chair.
I just had one announcement. There's no budgetary affairs committee tomorrow.
Okay. Senator Malka, did you have something?
I was gonna say, I think we should continue.
Okay, Senator Trout, Chair Trout.
I can give diversity included caucus and women's caucus. I've been asked by the chairs to do that since they were harmed previously in this space. So I haven't asked you that. So if we do that, I can give the reports very quickly.
Okay. I guess I'll just go down the line. There's no report from Women's Caucus. I assume there's no report from Constitution Caucus.
Mr. Speaker, I did say I was going to do women and diverse inclusion.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I apologize. I'll have you go first then.
Okay. I can
Do them
just
both at the same
Okay.
time, yeah.
Women's Caucus plans to be meeting Tuesday 4 to 5, and Diversity Inclusion Caucus plans to meet Tuesdays 2 to 3. If you want more information regarding those, they're planning on doing conference room for the first meetings. They might change that after first couple meetings. Go into their Slack pages. They've sent information in their respective Slacks. That's all for the caucus system.
All right, Constitution Caucus.
Hi, y'all. We're having Constitution Caucus tomorrow at 4, where we will be discussing this. While it is an informal space, I do expect a level of formality and respect. And if that's not shown, I'm just going to be very disappointed in those that do come and show that disrespect at my caucus. And that's all I have. Thank you.
And then the chairs, I know budgetary gave hers. Do you have one, Chair Trout?
Because we have no legislation, we will not be meeting this week. If we don't have any legislation for next week, I will have an informal committee because I really miss having committee. So attend there if you have any questions, comments, concerns about legislation or this space, or if you want to put your heads together for legislation. Please write legislation, because otherwise we're going to be sitting here twiddling our thumbs for an hour, and that's boring. Don't do that. Write legislation. That's all I have.
All right, I have, I would have had something to report. I have nothing to report now. Parliamentarian, nothing. Senators and Associate Senator reports. Senator Doyle.
So not sure if this is the right time to do this, but I would like to make a comment that while, as stated in the bylaws, ad hominem attacks are mostly focused on the impact it has, and so we have not had one today. I would like to say that we today got very, very close to having ad hominem attacks. And I would like that everyone keeps a cool head and respects each other's opinions going forth in the Senate.
Thank you, Senator Correa.
Hey y'all, so I just wanted to give you guys an update. I am currently planning on working with Off-Campus Life in figuring out something to do with spin bikes to make it more easier and affordable for folks at campus to access. So if y'all want to give me some input or want to work with me in that project, hit me up. Thank you.
Associate Senator Esselin.
Hi, you kind of buzzed past it, but I do have a report for Internal Affairs Committee. We discharged Lex 5201. This is to, I believe, solve our constitution issue from last year. And we had worked on the vote of confidence clarification. It is not yet complete. If you would like to have a voice on that document with the Internal Affairs Committee, please come to the meeting on Mondays from 12 to 1 p.m. Thank you.
All right, Church out.
Really briefly, we have events going on at the UCA. There will be some guest performances at the UCA over the next couple of weeks, such as Jake Brickman, Robert Hill, etc. There's a lot of other ones. So if you're interested in guest performances, please go and do that. Additionally, CSU's Wind Symphony will be performing October 6th at 7:30, and the Symphonic Band will be performing October 13th at 7:30. For both these performances, there are in-person and virtual options available, so you have no excuse to not watch because they're really pretty. Additionally, I want to remind the space about the fall cleanup stuff that's been going, that I'm hoping to get the space involved in on. We've had a lot of applications at Off-Campus Life, and it'd be great to have more. So either let me or the branch head know if we're interested in doing that. Registration ends October 19th. We do need a minimum of 6 volunteers. If you're already doing one, let's say for LAPLC, you cannot do it for 2 groups. You have to sign up for just one. I'm sorry. I hear the disappointment, I know. So let me know and we can get that figured out ASAP. That's all I have.
Senator Tinson.
Yeah, to continue on Sammy's for the University of Center for Arts, those performances are free for students. I've been to multiple this year and they usually only last about an hour. So even if they're not necessarily your go-to, I think they're still good to go to. The artists that perform are faculty or guests that come in and they're all very talented. So they're free. It's very easy to go to. I definitely think they're worth showing up for.
Thank you. Any other senators or associates? Seeing none, this meeting's adjourned.
As I said, ask you about the Slack. I'm just my first
Okay,
session, so
yeah.